Hello, this is Lisa Lee and welcome to this week's enrichment reading. We are going to be moving into a holiday kind of a space. I sat down with our guides, and the first thing that I knew that we were going to do a opening gifts with our guides. Like, I knew that that was sort of the theme, that was the idea, that was sort of what was impressed upon me even before I came into the room. But once I sat down, our guides, there was almost like a somberness, and they were like, this year's hard. This year is like extraordinarily difficult. There's a lot of reasons why. It's difficult right now to even bring yourself into that place of faith that the holidays sort of symbolize, whether it's family politics, the politics of everybody else, or just the space and place that we are in the world right now. It's hard to be a person of any kind of faith at this moment. People are very addicted to certainty. They're very addicted to the supremacy of their beliefs in relation to their certainty. And any sort of, finding some center of gravity right now in terms of like what to believe, what not to believe, how to believe, all of that is really tricky. And a lot of it has to do with whatever's happening in our skies and whatever is happening in terms of this like shift of power with the spiritual infrastructure. And it creates an uneasiness. It creates a, kind of a feeling. And so our guides are saying, not only is there that, there's just been like a death rattle of things of old. And so our guides wanted to sort of take us out of that for a little while, take us like on a little vacation from all of the vibes of the now that we're currently kind of picking up on and interacting with, and bring us into a place that's just, let's open some gifts with our guides who love us. And let's go into a holiday space with them. They are, and that hit me like a little bit of emotion, that wave. They want to be with us right now. It's not, I'm getting this very like intense feeling that our guides are sort of impressing upon my heart. That's not just that, they want to be of support and they this and that. They want to spend this time with us. They long for your attention. They long for your company, for your presence. They want to be with you right now. And so this is basically what we're doing, is we're entering into a space where I put the holiday music on. We've got the sound of a crackling fire. I think you can hear it. I hope I put everything in the right spot. And we're going to sit around the fire with the ascended ancestors and the ascended guides that love us so much. And we're going to open some gifts. We're going to exchange some gifts, and mainly they're going to give us some presents. And so I have in front of me the bag of mixed emotions, and this is a deck that is, so many decks I just appropriate and I like consecrate them for divination, and this is one of them, but it's too big to hold, so I use a shake it up bag and pull things out. And so as a launching spot, we're going to kind of start with this bag of mixed emotions, because that's sort of where the guides sort of brought me into this space where they were very much longing to give, longing for you to be with them. And there was this feeling of like, but there's, let's start with some mixed emotions and unpack that and bring the gifts in around that. So almost like a holiday that is less about showing up as your best self so that everybody knows that you're like the most impressive, or, or the holiday where you just kind of like put everything aside. This is oddly, your guides are saying like a holiday where they're like bringing you in, they're sitting you down in like that very parental way. And they're saying, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Let's talk about you. And then talking about you. And then also, well, this is a gift that I got you for this reason. And this is a gift that I got you for that reason. And so that's sort of the format. And so as we sort of move ourselves into this space of opening gifts with our guides, there's so much love here. Oh man, it's like, it's pathetic. So we've got our bag of mixed emotions. And we've got what's going on here. Powerful. And understanding and rejected. Aww. So, this is an interesting array of mixed emotions. Let's look at one more. Yeah. I think it speaks to where we are. We're looking at some stuff. Like, I kind of, the preface, because I was like, wow, sticking my head into the collective right now just kind of feels, it's been hard to put my head in the psychic space over and over and over again, like for a while now, because there's a lot going on. But lately it's been like extra special, difficult. And so when our guides say that, they kind of like, they understand that there's this apathy is striking me as very much that like wounded warrior, like I'm exhausted. It's like that exhausted warrior kind of feeling. And with careless in reverse, it's like they're basically saying like this apathy here about like, it doesn't matter, you know, who cares? Like this has to do with they're saying you care a lot more about the way things look. You care about the way things are. You care about the way that you're treated in one way or another. Like you care, like you do care. And so one of the first things they want to say is like that this, and I guess it comes up like your guides are kind of showing me somebody who like a thought will come to them about, you know, the state of the world or the state of their life in one way or another, or something that somebody did, and you know, expectations and disappointments, and that disappointment will come through. And your guides are showing me someone who's saying it doesn't matter, I don't care. And so this right here is saying like that they're watching you, they're close to you, and they do know that there are things that you're kind of dismissing as I don't care that you care about. And so they're basically almost coming in and saying like, we care too, like we care, and we know that you care, and it's okay to care, because there's a powerful, you know, like I said, like this weird way in which, you know, I stick my head into this space, and your guys are showing me that this is pretty much everywhere. You know, people are afraid, and people, when they're afraid, become very addicted to certainty. And when people become very addicted to certainty, then we have this supremacy of perspective that goes right next to addiction to certainty. So not only do you have to be certain, but your position is the one that is right, and everybody else has to sort of be oriented around that in one way or another. It's a mindset, it's a patriarchal mindset, and it's very powerful. And since we're facing so much in the way of like looking at a world where the corruption is like absolutely overwhelming and impossible to even, you know, find your footing with, this all-powerful, like things are really hard, where is my guidance? And with understanding and rejected, your guides are kind of coming in to say like, you know, wherever you find yourself right now, whatever you're feeling right now, whatever level of struggle, or whatever level of rejection that you might even have, like might even be dealing with in one way or another, your guides are saying, you know, one of the first gifts that they want to bring through is for you to truly know, hey, that they love you, and that they want your companionship, they want your company, they want to spend this time with you. It's their deep desire to connect. And also that they know that nothing that you're feeling is not a big deal, and it isn't that it's not important. There's a powerful shift going on right now, and it's so powerful that it is almost putting and positioning people and planting people in their worst light in one way or another. And so this understanding about what it means to be in this place, in this space, having to sort of grapple with whatever level of hardship, and everybody's dealing with hardship. So whatever your level of hardship is, you know, one of the aspects of grace that we want to kind of bring in is around whatever your level of hardship is, you're invited to appreciate that other people are there in their own way. And that that's important. I'm waiting for your guides to say more. And they're just saying that, you know, sort of appreciating and being in a place where like it's not just your experience that's bad, it's not just, you know, what you're dealing with that's difficult. It's kind of like the soup has a certain kind of taste, and and everyone in that soup is kind of contributing with their own level of reaction to, you know, where we are. And so our guides are saying like this holiday comes in and nobody looks their best, nobody's in their best light, and that can be very painful, and that can feel like rejection, but it's not. And so there's this big sweeping like love, and they're wanting to sort of give you like, one of the first things that they're wanting to give you is like not only an acceptance and you are valued and you are loved and you are desired, you know, and your presence is desired, but also there's so much compassion more than anything else that is accompanying this message. So those are our mixed emotions. They're so close. They're always so close. They're really close. Actually, your guys are saying like, we don't leave you for a second. Not a moment goes by that they're not like very intent on I hear holding you. Some more cards. So yeah, they're saying, you know, we want to give you the gift of our intimacy, our companionship. And the intimacy and the companionship that you share with them is so significant. They want to make you aware of that. Justice. Ace of Pentacles. And so the bottom of the deck here with Four of Pentacles, they want to give you more than just enough to hold on another day and hold on another day and hold on another day. They want to bring in this gift of abundance, because that Four of Pentacles really speaks of like holding yourself together manually, where you're getting it done and you're doing it and you're making it happen, but like you're holding yourself together and you're holding yourself together to the extent there where it feels like a little, that Four of Pentacles has a desperation aspect to it. It has like, again, that like trying to find some certainty, trying to find something that you can, you know, really feel safe with. And your guides are saying that there's a decision that has been made by them related to this. King of Pentacles is interesting because every time I feel this, it's like a different feeling than I would normally associate with the King of Pentacles. This King of Pentacles is like moving towards me in a way. It's almost saying like there is this aspect of like head of the household, family. Yeah, there's something here. Let's get some more cards on that. I wanna read further into that. Which one? Let's see what this is. So there's been some sort of decision here that's been made like from above, like from on high. So the first thing they want to give you in terms of like a gift is like, you know, you've been holding on, you've been holding on, you've been holding on, you've been holding on. There's been a decision that has been made about what it means for you to be in the world, what it means for you to have stability in the world. And in relationship to like this King of Pentacles, it's almost like, it's a little bit cryptic, so I'm going to get a couple more cards to see what that is exactly. There's something striking me as like requiring a little bit more investigation. So it's been decided. So that Judgment card speaks of something that is that is a decision that is made external to you, about you, in relationship to you. And they're saying it's a good decision. It's a decision that benefits you. But in relationship to this King of Pentacles, what are we looking at here? Because that King of Pentacles is like really giving me very heavy father energy. And so for some of you, there's this energy of a father coming through. Self-worth. And sure-footedness and predestination. With the unknown journey. And fate. Accepting help and guidance. So perfectionism and burnout, again, like this speaks to this Four of Pentacles. So the first thing that they want to, I'm hearing like we want to give you this gift of imperfection to a certain extent, because a lot of what you're dealing with and a lot of what you're feeling is in an impossible situation for one reason or another, or in a situation that is especially hard for one reason or another. There's like this like failure to be perfect. And that perfection, that failure to be perfect, and the tyranny that goes along with that is one of the things that needs to pass away as part of like what isn't humane and what isn't even really part of the human experience. It's part of like a conditioning and an indoctrination. And so your guys kind of want to come in and say like, you know, in terms of what you have been through and who you are and what you represent, there's this grace that says like, you know, I want you to step into this perfection in your imperfection. Because this King of Pentacles, what has been decided about you, what has been decided for you, what is kind of like I'm seeing this as being an external circumstance that you have no control over one way or another, that it's like the fates have decided, more or less, and especially with this fate. Yeah, the fate here on the bottom of the deck, underneath it is determination and certainty, and then underneath that is perfectionism and burnout. And with the Four of Pentacles, this paints a very clear picture of this apathetic, and it's not really a numb apathetic, which doesn't really feel like much except shutdown. This is an apathetic around that I don't care, it doesn't matter, who cares, right? And so your guys are coming in to say like they're bringing help is on the way. So one of the main gifts that they want to sort of convey that you are receiving is the help that you have been requesting. I'm being shown to kind of tell you a little bit more about this moment in time. There was one night when there was like a major eclipse. I forget what it was, but there was like complete and total darkness. And for just a few minutes or a few hours, I felt like there was no connection to the guides. There was no connection to the celestial realms. There was no real connection to that love and that support. It almost like shut off like a light. And they're saying that if you have been feeling any level of this, a lot of that has to do with like the corrupt power, you know, having its like death rattle in one way or another, like painting a picture or creating an energetic environment that isn't really true to the reality of what is. And so this decision, this judgment, and like judgment day, I'm hearing like that judgment day related to like the way that things were, the way that things were established, and what it means for you to begin to receive in a new way. And I'm almost hearing to receive, period, end of sentence. They want you to allow yourself to be in a place of acceptance and to stop. They're not stop, but, you know, part of what it means, this judgment against the status quo, the way that things are, like how they have been established. And I guess that patriarchal energy is like that leadership that isn't. Let me just listen, because this is kind of. They're saying that striving and that like doing your best, being as much as you can, and like doing as much as you can and trying as hard as you can, and this notion that there's in any way some need to be perfect and, you know, perfect to that standard. Your guides are saying one of the biggest gifts they want to give you is this gift of like letting yourself be imperfect. Letting yourself not measure yourself against whatever that was. And whatever that was indoctrination, whether it's like religious or secular, it's the indoctrination of patriarchy writ large. And so like allowing yourself to move away from that indoctrination and receive what they are kind of expressing as like, you are perfect. There's nothing you can do right or wrong that's going to change that. There's nothing that you can do that in our eyes is not perfect. But the perfection that we see when we look at you, the perfection that we experience when we're with you, isn't about, because they showed me somebody like measuring themselves, you know, looking at the mirror in a certain way and taking their own like mental measurements and looking at their bank account in a certain way and making those mental measurements and looking at their position in a certain way, again, like mental measurements against like, am I measuring up or am I somehow failing? And since we are in a system collapse that is rapidly becoming more profoundly like a system collapse, they want us to understand that we are perfect. And so they want to give us this gift of like imperfect perfection. No, you are not perfect against a rubric that has been set by the tyrannical tastes of a lunatic energy, you know, but you are perfect to us. And you're perfect to us in not having to try so hard, not having to do your best. But just when they're showing me somebody who is just like, I like having snacks on the couch, you know, I'm seeing somebody like all bundled up and like held in blankets. And they're saying like, this is our perfect, most beautiful, and like this is we adore you right here, right there, in this moment, in this way. And so they want to let you know that like just how perfect you are, despite all of the holding it together. For some, that addiction to certainty and that addiction to like determination around certainty. Not being able to continue and do and gain and make and score and have that Four of Pentacles. They're saying like this decision that has been made from on high about what it means to establish you, your predestination, the self-worth, that the weighing of the scales of your worth having nothing to do with striving, having nothing to do with the points and the graphs and the and everything that you're seeing and valuing yourself against. That self-worth and that value that they see in you is like, you are perfect the way you are perfect where you're at. And this journey that you're on, you don't know a half of it, is what I'm getting. And so they're first bringing in this notion of like, they want to give you the gift of letting go. Like I hear like a benediction, like, may you be released from the need to have to be impressive. May you be released from the need to have to earn your value and earn your wealth and earn your personal sense of your own value. May you be released from that, and may you step into a knowledge of your perfection that says whatever you're doing, however you're thinking, whatever the circumstances may be, like you are more than enough. You are perfect. So let's see what else they want to give us. That's really sweet. I like that. And like they're saying like to have some relief, step into some relief right now. There's a strain that is so powerful that is on every single person, and part of what it is going to be for you to stop feeling in any way like judged against a rubric or operating even in defiance of being judged by like that apathy and I don't care, is to stop judging so harshly as well. Like there's something there. Because there is this notion of like, you know, part of what it means to step into the ease and the comfort of that imperfection is knowing that that perfection isn't meant to be for anybody. That perfection isn't meant to be imposed on anyone, and to step into a knowledge that that everyone is going through some breaking point in one way or another, and having to function through that burnout, function through that breaking point, function through that fear, and show up 100% with everything that they've got in one way or another. If we can begin to forgive ourselves for like the impossible task of being in this time, in this place, in this pressurized kind of a situation, and also like everyone's there, so not to be alone in any of it is sort of a gift that they want to give you in the way of perspective. And that not being alone in a feeling like this, not being alone in a relinquishment of some aim for perfection, is also not being alone in by taking yourself out of that alone place and putting you in a place where everybody is in that perfect imperfection with you, and you can begin to like breathe and let yourself breathe a little bit. Like there's some alchemy there about saying your perfection is perfectly imperfect, and that means other people get to be imperfect. And now we can take a breath because it's just, you know, that it's just that hard is also a liberation. And that feeling of liberation that comes in identifying with the whole is part of the liberation that we're all stepping into anyway. So let's look at this 8 of Wands and this 5 of Cups, because it does feel like there's a lot of like activity and interference and static and confusion, and then a lot of grieving that is somehow like these two things are traveling together, and that's a terrible sort of a feeling of like deep grief and also this frenetic energy of all kinds of stuff coming at you at once. So let's take a look. Yeah, relating. So holidays are going to kick up feelings about our relationships, whether we like it or not. Even if we're in relationships, holidays always kind of do this, because there's always like epigenetic stuff that goes along with the holidays, and there's also this notion of like the family of origin that we're and the family that we're in, and how all of those energies operated on the holidays, and this has an imprint. And so there's this notion with this energy of yourself and your light and your essence and your brightness and your beauty and your aliveness, and the 11th house is going to be community and humanity and hope. Whatever grief that you're feeling, and your guides are saying, you know, a lot of this is very valid, because with the understanding and rejected there, they want to change your mind about what it means to relate to others, what it means to be related to. And there's stories that we tell ourselves about relationships, and stories that we tell ourselves with this perception here about our expressive, creative, loving, playful, warm, confident, flirtatious selves, and what it means to connect in that way. And then we're looking at like this 8 of Wands feels like static, and all of these all of these snakes here are striking me as like different opinions and different positions and different takes. And then this other person is just like, I'm just grieving heavily for all of the losses. And there's almost like, that's almost like the zeitgeist of this moment is like, you know, a competition of certainty and fear and, you know, opinions. And then also like this deep grief and people moving through, like having to bury a lot of hopes and having to contend with a future that does not seem like safe, and having to contend with a moment in time where all of your well-laid plans like it's going to be an adventure, and maybe you didn't sign up for one. I got some water here. But one of the gifts our guides want to give us right now is to relate to ourselves different in the way that we perceive. This part over here, in terms of like, there's a predestined place for us. There's a predestined future that is laid out, that is again beyond our sight, because it's being created. And the old sort of like this, like feels like toxic family vibe, or like father vibe, like this kind of a thing. The first gift is the gift of imperfection, being perfect. The second gift is to recast relationships in a new light along the lines of the perfectly imperfect. My throat chakra is acting up. So relating might have stories around it. And there is, again, something here with that understanding and rejected. Your guys are saying that, let me just lean in a little bit. Let's get some more cards. It's funny the way that my throat chakra is acting up right now. It's deep. Even the way they're saying, this is more about the way that you relate to yourself, and the way that like all of the interference and all of the static and all of the voices would have you relate to yourself as well, and what it means to not look to those masses, you know, to give you any sense of yourself, that self-worth and that love in a certain kind of way. Because the relating here is about partners, it's about companionship, it's about best friends, it's about sharing and awareness. And the Leo Lover card is going to be about like you getting to be your biggest, like most expressive, like loudest, happiest self, and having that be accepted and loved. And so the first point of like the first gift that your guys want to say is like, shut off all of the static, shut off all of this noise. This is a crazy time. People are at their worst and they're aiming at each other left and right, because again, certainty and supremacy of opinion are these strongholds of patriarchy that are almost impossible even like intellectually to let go of. But there's a quality to that which, you know, in accepting the imperfection, and then also turning off all of that noise and relating to yourself in a very new way, and beginning to bring in a new perception on yourself. And so our guides are going to show us a little bit more about that perception that they have of us, and that they want to bring in more relationships. There's something there. Part of the present that they want to open your eyes to is your perception on what it is to show up and be perceived in all of your glory. And then have that perceiving be something that leads to relating in a positive, like happy way that helps you grow and that feels like right. And so they want to bring you out of whatever, all of this interference and these leveling fields and the competition of like views, and bring you out of this place of focusing only on the failures in the way of what relating has been in one way or another. And first relate to yourself very differently, and then there's more here. So let's get some more cards. I'm in the frame. I have to like remind myself these days to like check and make sure that I'm using the space right. Yeah. So let's take a look. And they're showing me that bonfire, and they're just saying, come sit with us. Come sit with us. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about what we want to bring into your year. There's a fork in the road. When it comes to relationships, we've got a fork in a road, all that glitters. And to be fair. I see justice and to be fair here twice, and that they imagine and the clean it up and the by the book flying out. So much, this 11th house, speaking about like community and group and creativity, everything has to be rewritten, and we know that everything has to be rewritten, and things have already started to be rewritten. Like our social media right now, and what it has been the last like couple of years, has been about a rewriting of what it means to relate, a rewriting of what it means to perceive ourselves and others. And so that's still ongoing. With the come to the edge, the loyal heart, and by the book, and to be fair, fork in the road, and all that glitters, uh, there's a pain like with that understanding and rejected, that they want to sort of correct along the lines of relating by roles is what we came from, and relating by roles was always going to you'd have to like be the role and then yourself through the role, and in that way you could relate and people understood where you were coming from and you understood what the social agreement was with where they're coming from, and then the third space is outlined like what the rules of engagement were, and then the game was played on that field. And as we rewrite what it means to relate to each other, the first thing that we're going to find is this like disorientation with this fork in the road. Like, what, I don't know how to relate to like people in this context. There's a rewriting, but it's not really rewritten. And so there is this moment of identifying all of the failures of all of the ways in which like I thought that was gold and it's not, it's glitter. I thought that I could trust this and I couldn't trust this. I thought that person was this and that person wasn't that. I thought this experience was this and then it wasn't that. And to bring justice into the experience, Spirit kind of wants to come in and say, those ways of relating based on certainty, those ways of relating based on assigning certainty to a certain kind of duality and the intentions of another, and all sorts of stuff about like how we frame the stories of what it means to relate to others and to be related to, everything about that by the book has to be thrown out. That book needs to go, because it's really clouding your perception on yourself and what you bring to the table and what it means to be accepted as yourself. Because outside of a rule book and terms of engagement and third spaces and relating by roles, when we're not using that anymore, the only way to sort of show up is authentically. And that does call you into a certain kind of vulnerability related to like, not everyone's going to accept where you're coming from. And if you have a no way of sort of bringing that all the way to the surface with come to the edge, there's a way in which you can kind of just feel sort of invisible in all of it, or that to bring yourself into the open is only to be, to set yourself up for judgment in one way or another. And my throat chakra is such a, like an issue with it, like that's coming up in this reading, is expressing from a glad and happy and like, that you're loved kind of a place. That's what your guides want to give you. That's a major gift that your guides want to give you, is this knowing that you are loved and worthy. And when you express yourself, you are received as loved and worthy. And that doesn't mean that you're received by everyone as loved and worthy. It's your guides are kind of giving you an assurance that those that are meant to receive you will receive you, and they'll receive you in that beautiful way. And those that can't, for whatever reason, aren't meant to. And so showing up is not so much a faculty of being of value based on the role that you're playing and that you're putting into the social exchange, and more on expressing authentically and having that real understanding and that knowing that if you come to the edge, then those people who recognize the song that you sing will sing along with you, and those that don't are not there, they're not real. So there's something about like the reality and the non-reality like existing in two places at once. And so they want to bring some justice in the way that you perceive yourself in terms of relating, because two things have to happen. One, you have to change the way that you think about what it is to relate. And so if there's stories that you're holding that says, I don't have this person in this role in my life, or I'm not this role for anybody, and therefore I'm not anything, and what am I gonna, like, it's just punishment, you know what I mean, like in one way or another. They want you to shed that, because that needs to be shed anyway. That's not even relevant, and that was never relevant, and now more than ever, before, it is even less relevant. And so all that glitters is not gold. Even if you had all of these people in all of these roles, and you were these different roles that were the societally agreed upon, validated roles. Because when we measure ourselves against these roles and we say, I never had this kind of a, thing, or that kind of a person, or I didn't have that sort of a situation, those roles never really provide what people are looking for in the way of intimacy, because there's a referee in the form of a role that keeps them 2 or 3 steps distant from that personal access and that personal vulnerability and that personal being received. And so, to be fair, is like bringing justice in where you will be met at this level of your perception on what it means to value your imperfection and the imperfection of others, and then to move into that imperfect imperfection with an authentic expression that is a deep knowing that you are loved and that nothing can change that. Nothing can change the love that your guides have for you. Nothing can take you away from the love that those that support you spiritually have for you. And nothing can take you away from the love that is with those that are meant for you. And that everything else is static. And when you recognize that everything else is static and you don't take everything else to heart, and that can be really difficult, especially during the holidays, and we're talking about families and ways in which people haven't shown up in roles that you may have needed in one way or another, and that the roles in some way like spell an enormous disappointment. And your guides want to sort of take that from you and say, you know what, all of those things that you feel like you should have had and you didn't get, or you should have and you don't have, and people feel this way and people feel that way. Your guides are basically like that. None of that is like this fork in the road is saying, like, you know, just walk away from that stuff, because that's not it, never was it. And what's for you is truly what is going to make the difference in your life and truly going to bring in that justice around what it is to relate. And so there's almost this understanding rejected, like this failure of there's a feeling of failure. I'm picking up on it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you fail anything. I just think there's something here about all that glitters and the fork in the road and the need for justice that I'm picking up as like a, you know, like the sentence is almost like, I don't deserve this. And I don't deserve this, and this is what I'm getting. Like, what the hell? You know, and so with our guide saying, you don't deserve this, you deserve so much more. And we're going to start by just the gift that your guides want to give you right now is like to know that, to bring that into like the core of your knowing, because there's been an eroding of confidence that your guides really want to fix. You know, they kind of want you to check in with yourself when you might be feeling this way with the Five of Cups, when you're listening to the interference patterns of all these different voices and all these different positions and all of this, you know, stuff about where you should be and what you should be and who you should be and what you should think and how you should think it and against what I think and blah, you know, that instead of like reverting into this, like, this is just all a big loss, no one's gonna see me clearly and my authentic expression is not valued properly or won't be. They want to pull you out of that perception, and they want to bring you into a perception that says you are so perfect in whatever imperfection you think you have. It's a perfection, and you are so deeply loved, so deeply admired, and so deeply cared for. And that is the baseline of everything. And that's really something that they want to plant all the way at the core of your being. And that's a gift that they want you to take with you, so that when you are in these moments of looking at these relationships and judging them against the backdrop of how you have been judged, and not letting that inform, like not taking that in, not letting that inform your sense of self, and instead stopping yourself and saying, no, wait a minute, I'm perfect. And I'm perfect in the eyes of those that are there to love me in my spiritual environment, and those that are meant for me, that are meant to love me in my material environment. And even if you are feeling a lack or an absence, your guides are here to say, like, that does not in any way discount how worthy of love and how absolutely beautiful that authentic expression is, because that authentic expression is praise. And so they don't want you to be cut off from praise. And when you think about what it means to express authentically, think less about what it means to express authentically and be received, and more about what it is to express authentically and have it be praise. And so your guides are really wanting to give you this gift of like imperfect perfection, and then the perfect expression that comes of that imperfect perfection, and that perfect expression is literal praise, and that praise is what, and to be around you is to experience, and to be, and then your guys are saying, we praise you. There's really this way in which your guys are like, we praise you in all of the little ways that you don't see yourself. And I just got hit with a wave of sadness along the lines of like feeling unwitnessed. They're saying, we witness you, and we love you, and we want you to take that in. We want you to hold that, and we want you to know that. Because with that Justice card and that Ace of Pentacles, they are able to bring justice for you. They are able to bring justice for you, and they are able to bring you onto the path that is meant for you. They are loyal to you, and they know that you're at the edge, and they know that everyone's at the edge. And again, to give yourself the breathing room and to give others the breathing room to be in this tumultuous space is really important. And if you can't give others the breathing room to be in one way or another figuring it out and the best of their ability using that authentic expression, then you're simultaneously and in the same breath cutting yourself off from that same grace. And so bringing grace into the situation for others and bringing grace into the situation for yourself is so essential right now. And that, again, that's a gift that they want to give you. So I want to see what they want to say here about just the way that they're receiving you and the way that they're seeing you and the way that they're admiring you. Because they do every single day, every day. And one of your guides is saying every hour, not just every day. And they love you in ways that you probably can't even fathom. So with this inner trust and bring it into form, this is a tough time of having to really dig into, with the imagine and the clean it up, you know, really dig into this place of having to imagine, like, because the value systems and the things that we sort of held our value against and what informed our value, that's all changing and that's all crumbling. And whether you're, you know, in the tower as it goes down or watching the tower go down from whatever position that you find yourself in, you're still having to imagine yourself in respect to others and respect to society in a new way. And that means cleaning up all of the ways in which it was glitter and not gold. You know, when you value this certain type of a relationship, when you value this certain type or way of being related to. And that all ended up looking like, you know, manipulation in one way or another after the veil came down, after the awakening happened. Part of what it is to imagine a new way of relating is cleaning up what you are still holding on to in the way of an old way of relating. And so your guys are saying that, you know, when we think about this visions of life beyond death, also bringing in that infinite point of view. Spirituality is really tough right now to be creating a container for your faith and to be working with what it means to create containers for your faith, to be tapping into, you know, the different dimensions at this point and the different timelines in this point and everything that comes through of that. People want certainty. They want something that is like rock solid, and there's no way to do that right now because there's a taking form. So either you're a part of what it means to walk through the valley of taking form, or you have to regress into certain certainty dogmas and, you know, where everybody's validating the same rule book. There's not really a middle ground, and that can be that can be a very uncomfortable process. But one of the things that your guides are saying about, like, what does it mean to step into a place of feeling like that inner trust and bringing into form that spirituality that can actually continue to nourish you and continue to hold you, is to first bring in that infinite sense of yourself. You are an infinite. Once you exist, you're not going to unexist. Your consciousness is forever. Where you place that consciousness, what carries that consciousness, what moves through that consciousness, how that consciousness works, that's going to be the life after death, the life after this life. Where the consciousness is right now and where it's forming and what it's forming against and how it's evolving. You guys want you to, as a spiritual practice and a spiritual, like, almost like a preset, is to know that you are infinite. To be in contact with the version of yourself that's already lived the life that you have lived and that you are living and has gotten to that point of evolution. And you're always evolving, but that highest point of evolution, allowing yourself to have that infinite sense of yourself, is bringing the infinite into your finite experience. It is expanding your limitations and what you think limits you. And so they're inviting you to bring in an infinite sense of yourself that is, first and foremost, that infinite sense of yourself is not finding its value in achievements. That infinite sense of yourself doesn't find its value in achievements. That infinite sense of yourself finds its value in being. And so finding your value in being, bringing in that infinite kind of a place and perspective, and that focusing on the light, and releasing the dark wound and letting love live. What is it going to mean for you to begin to relate to relating and be related to have your authentic expression and not feel afraid to be perceived because of all the meanness and all the cruelty that exists in the world at all different levels, even at the most like unconscious levels? You know, face it, people are pretty basically mean and horrible and cruel, like unconsciously, like most of the time. And there's this type of evil that I often talk to people about that is the petty narrative, that is like it's one of the cruelest things one person can do to another, but it's also one of the most innocent, easy to do things that we all do in one way or another. And so creating a petty narrative about somebody else, looking at somebody and reducing them to a narrative in your head that says, I'm right, they're wrong, or, you know, like something along the lines of like, so-and-so like thinks that they're great, but so-and-so is really just not. That's putting somebody and their great and like the literal divinity of another human being, the literal story that you can't possibly encapsulate at the most, like in any, like the most powerful way, you know, like an individual exists and like is this essence, to reduce them down to some petty narrative that you slap on them, and just that's just that touch of dehumanizing that also leads to a type of supremacy that we are addicted to with our certainty. Like, this is simultaneously something we all do and something that is like the most evil thing to do. And it's also been done to you. And so when we walk away from that, that's what it means to focus on the light and let the dark wound like go. You can't stop people from having petty narratives. You can stop yourself from having petty narratives. But if you're walking around just assigning sins to the others around you, and it doesn't mean that you're wrong about people being crappy, because people are always crappy, but holding on to that and not letting love live, stopping love from ever, like, you know, having a chance to breathe and exist, and stopping hope and focusing on those things instead of the light that is like another human being's divinity. This is sort of the shift that we're being called into, but it's also a shift that we're being called into in ourselves. And so bringing in that infinite sense of ourselves is also inviting in an infinite sense of others. And releasing the dark wound and letting love live is being mindful about our particular like role, and often like putting petty narratives on people, which makes them sort of unworthy of our attention, unworthy of our love. And that's hard. That's hard for everyone to do. You know, it's hard for us to not cast those spells, and it's hard for us to not be caught in those spells. But ultimately, that's the place and the space where love doesn't get to breathe. It doesn't get to grow. And so your guys are saying, you know, one of the first things they want you to change about the way that you relate to yourself and the way that you relate to others is to always err on the side of compassion, always err on the side of grace, and to focus on that light within yourself and to focus on the light within others is to not feed the narratives of the wounds and instead feed the narratives of the healing. And it's hard to do, but you bring that infinite sense of yourself and others into your heart and into your orientation when you focus on being and not achieving. Your guys are saying that's the very beginning of what it means to really know yourself and to really know others, and to also step into a fearlessness related to expressing. And so they want to give you that fearlessness related to expression. And they're saying that that's where that imagining a new way of relating and imagining a new way of being related to comes in. So even if you have these stories where you think that nobody can relate to you, no one's gonna really understand you, no one's gonna see you clearly because it's never happened, so it's never gonna happen, you know, your guys are saying, like, instead of that, they want you to throw that whole thing out and not have a tyranny about being understood in a certain way, and not having a tyranny of having to understand, but rather being in that infinite space, being in that infinite sense of self, being in that divine orientation in terms of the focusing on the light, and from that divine orientation experiencing yourself and then orienting towards others. Does it mean that you leave yourself wide open and everybody can come in the door and, you know, steal from you in one way or another? No. But it does mean that you are constantly regarding the other, no matter where they are in their journey and whatever delusions or illusions they happen to be in or not be in, with compassion and grace, and an understanding that everyone has some form of the picture, but nobody has the full picture, and that we're all sort of, you know, here to experience ourselves and each other as as divine interactions. And your guys are saying, like, if you can do that, and it does seem like a very difficult feat, but if you can do that, you'll begin to perceive life in a new way, and they want you to have that gift, and they want you to have this new perception of yourself, and they want you to have that new perception of others as well. And so they want to give you this gift of new perception. You know, first we have the perfect imperfection. Now we have the gift of a new perception when it comes to your authentic expression, and when it comes to what it means to relate, what it means to be received, and what it means to receive. I like that. And there's this loyalty here with the loyal heart. Like, they are so loyal to you. And they want you to know that. So if you felt like, you know, you're not here for me, you're not doing it, like, oh, I don't know. Four of Pentacles, there's definitely that. They're saying, no, the way that things look like right now, the way that things feel right now, this is a pressurized point. Like, we can feel an impending doom that is very present with us. That's like very real. And nobody's escaping it. Nobody doesn't have some sense of the impending doom. What happens when we're all walking around with some level of impending doom? Because we're all feeling something that's going to happen. When everybody's walking around with the sense of impending doom, and there's nothing that we see that we can really assign it to, we start assigning it to each other. We start assigning it to movements. We start assigning it to this. We start assigning it to that. We start to assign that doom because we, in the absence of something that is like causing that feeling, like we're trying to, our brains are scrambling to find a place, and other people are doing that with us. And so our guides are saying that, like, of course it's hard right now, but this is not it. This is not it. This does not stay like this. This is going to be one of the worst pinch points between worldviews in history, even like celestially and galactically. Like, this is a pinch point. And so we are all feeling some really difficult stuff, but to step into the grace, because it's there for us. And so with this Justice and this Ace of Pentacles, this is where our guys are saying they're bringing in some hope. They're saying, you know, we understand that there has been a tremendous amount of injustice towards you. There's no two ways about it. That is a known, and your guides know it to the tune of 150%. And they actually want to address that a little bit. They're saying, let's talk about that just for a moment. So let me get some cards that will address this. They're saying, like, we know that there's an injustice, and the presence of that injustice requires that they bring in a balancing of the scales. And we have the balancing of the scales twice, even though I don't know where I put it. I could have sworn I saw a card that's to be fair. I did. It's just missing. But yeah, so this notion of, oh yeah, it's right here, to be fair, and the Justice card, like, they're like, we are aware of a level of injustice that you've had to live with and endure that has they're saying, like, that presence of that injustice demands an answer from the universe. And that's what that Judgment card is about. You know, part of the gift that they want to give you is, like, that this injustice in your life and the level of injustice in your life is demanding a response from the divine. It's demanding a response from the universe. And that's this path is going to be that response from the universe. And they want you to know that that is there for you, that is part of the gift that you are receiving. So let's go ahead and get some more cards. Okay. Let's see what they want to show us now. Sagittarius. There's something about your movements that have been limited in one way or another. The law of transmutation and the Trinity, with the bottom of the deck being universal wisdom and law of frequency. So to get to the wisdom that you have very naturally, there has been a frequency of things that have, like, forced a level of understanding and a level of growth and a depth of field that you would never have gotten to had not hard situations come with, like I'm seeing, like, almost like a battering ram. Like, the level of wisdom that you have is in direct proportion with the level of moments where your coping skill was no match for the situation that you found yourself in. And that was this call to stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch. And so the part of the gift of what this injustice has brought in one way or another is this level of wisdom. So your guides are saying, you know, one part of what they want to speak to in terms of the injustice that has visited your life is its frequency. It's near omnipotence in one way or another. The way in which this is presented itself over and over and over again when you got up and went to explore, when you got up and tried to figure out the world around you and wanted to travel and figure and just have that joy of movement and that joy of like having a goal and getting to it, that this was not as easy as it should have been necessarily. And so there's this injustice in terms of having your like opportunities for even maturing in certain ways. There were a lot of foreclosures, and so there's this disappointment that has to be transmuted. And what the Trinity is sort of showing me here is that you are accompanied by a level of greatness and a level of care, and that breaking into wisdom and breaking into wisdom and breaking into wisdom also bring you into closer and closer and closer and more intimate proximity with the divine and what it meant to be connected to the divine. And so there are these gifts of justice within the injustice that they first want to mention, but they also want to say that, you know, you have to transmute, take all of this stuff that has been presented to you in the way of frequent limitations and transmute that by way of connection to the divine. That this is a tall order, and it's a lot. So let's get some more cards. So our guys want to bring us with that. There's change coming kind of quickly because I just saw 555 flash across my face. This new path, this is something that is finally some justice. Let's get some more cards. And they want me to kind of recap. Stepping into that, the release and the relief of the imperfect perfection. Stepping into that sense of yourself as infinitely loved, infinitely important, infinitely valued in your self-expression, and that praise of that infinite quality in yourself and others. And then stepping into and knowing that the injustices that you faced, it's not all on you. It's not on you to fix those injustices. It's not your chief and only person who's ever going to do anything is you. The guides are coming to say, like, part of the gift of this upcoming year is that we are going to bring some justice to your path, some justice to your story, some justice to where you're going and where you're meant to be. And that proximity to the divine is meaning that, like your guys are saying, and it's not just us, it's like it's the divine that is from on high with this judgment card bringing in this justice. Because you fought for justice, balance, and pleasure. Yeah. So this inspiration, so this path is related to this inspiration. And the divine genius, insofar as the Trinity is concerned, is a divine genius of a caliber of like the divine at like the most singularity kind of a level. And so this inspiration that is being brought in for you is going to bring the balance related to this, to be fair, the scales of justice, the justice card, and balance. Like all these three things speak of the same thing. They're saying we're bringing in the balance. That balance is the justice. Everything that you've known in the way of extremes, where that frequency of situations that caused you to become wiser and wiser and wiser, and what are you going to do with all this wisdom and like the knowledge that life is this hard. They're bringing in this balance, to be fair. They're bringing in this balance with the justice card. They're bringing in this balance with the balance card, and they're bringing in this balance, and the vehicle that is bringing in this balance is the inspiration that you are meant to participate with in your connection to the divine. That connection to the divine is also your connection to the divine genius. That divine genius that brings through that inspiration is also the provider, and that there's some aspect of pleasure in this ascension. It's not just all too hard for there to be like the strength. You know, they're saying that this inspiration is going to make this easy. I'm hearing the phrase like your yoke will be easy. It's been too hard. It's been backbreaking. What it means for that fairness, for that justice, for that balance to come in. If it's been backbreaking, if it's been too much, if it's been too hard, then balance in that situation is much easy. It's like what would bring balance to such strain and such hardship and such Four of Pentacles is ease. And so they are bringing in ease. And with that ease, they're saying, you know, this ascension process, this process of being your highest and best self. This process of finding the infinite self and operating from that infinite sense of self, that infinite sense of worth, there's pleasure to be had in this process, and the balance along the lines of what this spiritual walk is and what the spiritual relating is and what the spirituality can even offer in the way of a relationship with the divine is to bring in some pleasure, because pleasure is an issue. And I think we're going to do some readings on fear. I think we're going to do some readings on pleasure. But with strength and harvest, you guys are saying like you have been strong and it is time to receive some level of harvest. And that might be hard for you to believe. You don't have to believe it. You know, the gift here is that your guys are basically coming through to say, this is a judgment that comes from, it's not earned. It's not if you do the 10 steps. It's not if you always do the right thing. It's for you. That path is created for you. The justice isn't creating balance around what your needs and the lack of those needs being met, what that means. So let's just take a look at this strength. The strength is what you've been standing in, and I do feel a strain. That 4 of Pentacles is like heavy strain. And with this harvest here, it's hard to imagine. Clean it up and imagine here. These two, it indicates it's really difficult to imagine, but your guys are saying imagine it. Imagine it. We're opening gifts here. We have the gift of a perfect imperfection. We have the gift of authentic praise and expression and the known and the infinite self. And we have the gift here of a path that comes from your guides that also is justice in and of the same, delivered by way of the inspiration that they're bringing to you. When you're ready, like if you have like, well, where's it? Because I want to be inspired. Like I wanted the inspiration a week ago, or a year ago, 10 years ago. They're saying like, it's gonna be there. That's the gift. That's part of the gift, is this inspiration. So one of the main gifts that they're giving you is this inspiration. And it's gonna be there when you are in this place of strength around your authentic expression, in this place of strength about not asking yourself to be some kind of perfect. Better keep on walking step by step. A wait would be shorter. And so, the bottom of the deck, when you get closer, the mountain looks higher than you think. You still have the same goal. And so, with the strength card here, and look carefully, loneliness is also beautiful. Look carefully, silence is beautiful too. The harvest that they're offering you is, the strength is speaking to this card of like walking step by step, you know, knowing that you have to keep moving. Like there's no choice, you just keep on going, the perseverance. And that perseverance card, I don't see it, but I feel it, is again linked to this 4 of Pentacles sort of feeling. And so the strength card, this having to do it, having to move, part of the harvest that we're looking at is going to be this looking carefully and like being where you are and having an experience of that being beautiful, knowing that like what is beautiful and what is meant for you in the way of healing and in the way of harvest and the way of balance might be the gift of peace. Because there is this sense of like always having this experience related to goals, where you have a goal and the closer you get, the mountain just looks bigger and bigger and bigger until you get to the base of the mountain with your goal and you're like, well, this looked a lot more manageable from, 10 miles off. And your guys are saying that this harvest is about that peace. It's about that beauty that comes with, like, they're saying, let's get some more cards, because it's good. It's sort of a little, that's a little bit of an interesting thing there with the mountain, and I want to see closer what they want to say about that. Because this harvest is interesting. I can feel it as being like not what I would associate with harvest. When I associate the feeling of harvest, I think of like abundance and wealth and even excess to a certain extent. But they're saying that the work that you have done, planting all of these seeds, what is growing and what is being created for you is ease. It's ease. And even though your goal is enormous, they're saying there's still an ease in what it means to operate around and with it. Let's get some more cards on that. So this is, we're going to dig in just a little bit here with your path, the path that is meant for you. It's being brought to you by way of inspiration that's going to bring a level of balance. And that means that all of the seeds that you've planted and the harvest that you're going to get, and the perseverance and the strain that you've been under moving in that direction, that there's such a tranquility. And that even if it seems like so big and so hard and so insurmountable and so impossible, there's still this tranquility. And so why does it seem like the mountain is too much? Why does the mountain seem kind of like a weird victory of traits? Your guys are saying you're going to change a lot in this upcoming year. It's going to be one of those years where you get to the end of it and you don't recognize yourself again. Who was the person I was a year ago? No clue. That's sort of the year that you're looking at. So this notion of the traits, things that you dislike about yourself, and the professional life. How does your shadow self affect your professional life? And defensiveness. So this is a very interesting thing associated with harvest. Failed relationships. What are we working with here? Let's get these cards to let's get these cards to sort of answer. Because I don't think that the harvest looks like you think it does. And I think that that's one of these things. It's like, if we think that the harvest is a like fantastic, you know, professional life, if we think that a harvest is like a perfect, like operationally fantastic relationship, if we think that the harvest are like perfect physical traits, or perfect mental traits, or perfect traits, you know, and if we're defensive about where we are and what the mountain is because of where we are and what we think we can attain because of that mountain, you guys want to say like the harvest that they're bringing in is not these things, not these, you're not having to make some grade related to these things. But let me see what they mean by that. Stepping back to this notion of like imperfect perfection and praise as self-expression, and your path being perfect for you, and taking yourself away from any kind of comparison or comparing yourself to, you know, the quality of life that you were promised that's not going to exist in the same way. That was never real to begin with. Your guys are saying all that stuff was always a mirage, that the mask is coming off, that it's being revealed as a mirage, like is leaving everyone kind of horrified in terms of what they want. But this new sense of what you want, this new sense of where you are and being where you are and having where you are be something that nourishes you, and having where you are be something that is good for you, and that's your path. That's part of what we're looking at with the harvest, but I want to get a little bit more, because I don't want us to feel like there's nothing to hope for except something that we have to imagine our way into. Releasing anger, self-soothing, self-discovery. So this harvest is again a light, like a lightness of being, and I felt that with the where you are is where you're meant to be, and that there's all the love in the world in that in some way or another. And you know, when we think about that in terms of the defensiveness, our own, you know, dissatisfaction, like, all right, it's like lofty, you know, repeat boundaries, yeah. So yeah, okay, I want to lean into that a little bit. The harvest is going to be a place where you're not constantly operating around injustice and feeling this anger related to unwitnessed, or, you know, the lack of opportunities, or the opportunities are too hard to maintain, and like just releasing all of that. And again, that like peace that's coming in, that part of that harvest is a profound peace and a profound security in that peace. And with the professional life and the self-soothing, this is again where I think that this shift in the worldview and what it means to value new different things in order to properly like feel like life is giving you something. Put it this way, everything that we valued previously in relationship to roles, and having those roles be filled, and having those roles be operational, and those roles serving a certain kind of purpose in society and a certain kind of purpose for ourselves and our own sense of ourselves and all of that stuff, especially with professional life, so much is changing, and so much is changing in terms of what's even available, in terms of what you are meant to do and how you're meant to do it. Everyone is facing like absolutely, I'd call it cataclysmic change if it wasn't such a silver lining around what it actually brings in. There is this moment in time that we have where the seeds that are planted and what's meant to grow is going to grow outside of those structures. And that means having different values, different things that we are comparing ourselves to in order to find our meaning, and to let the disappointments go. If you had wanted a certain kind of relationship your whole life and you ended up with a different kind of relationship. If you wanted a certain kind of professional life your whole life and you ended up with a different kind of professional life. If you wanted a certain kind of set of assets and you had a different, story to have to work with. All of that is leading to the kind of harvest where there's like this peace that comes in, this security in that peace. That self-soothing means like letting go of what you thought you wanted in the way of professional life in order to bring in what is actually meant for you, what is the harvest. And so a lot of this is picking up your head from the picture that you're looking at and looking at a new picture. And that self-discovery with the traits, like what am I actually good at? What do I actually enjoy doing? What actually brings me life to do during the day and create with? Because that's what this harvest is really speaking to. And this celebration, and how can you celebrate yourself, and especially as it's clarifying this defensiveness, what do you feel most defensive about when it's brought up? I almost feel like what you feel like is a defensive thing is not being properly celebrated, not being properly appreciated. And so this harvest has to do with celebrating yourself, being celebrated, having this self-discovery around what you really have to offer, what that having to offer outside of the confinement of the roles and the rules, how that operates in freedom and the peace, that security is very much like linked to this peace. And that also means that in lieu of having to meet some kind of a goal related to your professional life or your relationships and the relationships that did or did not work, it's like releasing the anger related to that, bringing in that infinite sense of self, bringing in that grace, self-soothing along the lines of like, I didn't want that anyway, but I want something, but I don't know what it is. But now that's scary. And your guides are saying, no, the harvest is that self-discovery of the traits that you have and what those traits are capable of in terms of that self-expression and that inspiration, bringing in that justice and bringing in that balance and bringing in that provision. And there's some self-soothing here about like what wasn't, and there's some releasing some anger here about what was promised and what was not received. And so the harvest is being shown to us as a new way of being in the world, a new way of appreciating in the world, and that new way of appreciating and being these seeds that are planted that once they grow, they bring peace, they bring security, they bring inspiration, they bring balance, and they bring a new sense of what quality of life really means and really is. And all of that is available. And so these are the gifts that our guides want to give to us on this holiday season, are all of these things. And they also just want to bring such a sense, they're just saying like, we love you. They know that that's hard to hear even. And they're saying like, no, we really, really do love you. And what it means for us to express that love for you is, I hear the words yet to be seen, which is hard for me to hear because I kind of feel like our guides have been showing us love for a really long time. But the extent to which they're able to express and have that reach us in our lives is changing too. Our guides are able to maneuver in relationship to our life lessons to a very large degree. But as long as we are bound by stories about roles and quality of life and what we're supposed to have and what we don't get and why that defines our self-worth, as long as we're bound by all of that, there's not a lot that they can really give to us. Because there's some kind of an interference where like they try to give in some kind of a thing, like a structure is sort of in the way of like, no, the tyranny of what I wanted and what I didn't get really keeps them from giving us like what we are meant for and what is meant for us. And so they're saying that like, they're going to be able to give a lot more, and that we're going to be able to receive a lot more when we have released ourselves from certain expectations and like the tyranny of those expectations. I like it. And so we're going to get an activation before we end this reading tonight. And I just invite you to return to this space. Our guides are so much in the place and in the time that we are in this juncture in time that is so unbelievably hard. And they want to invite us into this space with like, let's sit around the fire. Let's talk about where you are. Let's talk about where you've been. Let's point out that you do care about certain things, and it does hurt that there is disappointment, but let's also bring in like where that disappointment can be alleviated along the lines of what is meant for you, what you will have, what we want to show you, what we can show you, and that the changes that are coming are release. They're a relief. That harvest is release and relief from the pressure that you've been living under. It says, every part of me, light and shadow, contributes to my wholeness, and your wholeness is this gift and that your guides receive every single time that you wake up in the morning. Every single time that you breathe a breath, they are receiving the gift that is you, and they want to give you the gift that is really the value that they feel for you. And so they invite you into to return to that, and to really listen, and to really allow yourself to receive and bring this into your heart, that they are perfect, and that perfection and that expression is praise, and it is glorious to hear, and they want your companionship, they want your company, and they enjoy you. And the gift of inspiration and the gifts of inspiration that they're bringing will, that fertility, they want you to know that, yeah, allow for this fertilizing to happen, so that you can bring this birth, this miracle and coherence, this miracle in coherence. And so they're activating a coherence, they're activating a fertility, they're activating an allowance, they're opening the doors so that we can receive. And they're bringing in what they're saying, like they're saying, I'm activating a miracle in your life. And so as we close out this reading in this beautiful holiday place, and opening gifts with our guides and opening gifts with our ascended ancestors, they're bringing us into a coherence and a harmony. They're offering us a creativity and a fertility that will activate our potential for something beautiful to grow from our consciousness into a new and grander expression of ourselves. They're activating the frequency of allowance to invite us to be open to whatever comes our way, without judgment, without opinion, without fear, and without resistance. When we allow, the universe becomes our partner in the wondrous dance of existence and expansion. They are activating the frequency of a miracle to support our belief in ourselves as part of Source, and therefore our beliefs that anything is possible. And so I invite you into this new reality with this coherence and this magic, where that coherence that supports our ability to harmonize the frequency of the heart with the frequency of the mind for an optimal ability to create the reality that we desire in an expression that is as grand and as profound as we can imagine. All that is required is our belief in their manifestation. And so with that, these are our gifts. And I'm going to give you all just so much love right now. Wherever you are, whatever you are up against, whatever you're dealing with, whatever you have had to endure, you are so valuable, you are so worthy, you are so beautiful, and your energy is so beautiful to me personally. And I really do value you, and I really do value this space, and I value each and every one of you and what each and every one of you brings to this school of fish and the movement that we make together. And so with that, I'm going to close this reading with a very happy and merry holidays to you. And may you bring in and allow this love to actually truly sink and land deeply in your heart. I love you all, and have a very happy, merry, and I will see you all again soon.